Bonjour. Welcome to episode 80, where Mark talks about his record collection. Today is Monday, the 12th of April, 2021. It is the first day of the first step of the reopening of society after the year-long COVID-19 experience, stroke roller coaster ride of fun, fear, and other emotions. It's been a really strange year, as you probably know, and it's okay not to feel okay right now, and it's okay not to feel normal right now. We've all been through some stuff that we wouldn't possibly have predicted, and here we are 1 year later, and somehow still holding on by our fingernails to the frayed ends of sanity, to quote one of the great bands starting with the letter M, Metallica. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the other great bands starting with the letter M. The band is Mogwai, and I'm going to be giving almost like a beginner's guide to this band and their discography over the next 45 or so minutes. The first thing I do have to point out is I'm an enthusiast and not an educator. You shouldn't be using the contents of this NOTCAST or anything else I do actually for academic purposes. I don't think they stand up to the rigour of academic citation. Also, just because you've seen something on YouTube doesn't necessarily make you an expert in it, although hopefully my enthusiasm for this fantastic band of miserable Scottish bastards will help you in both your record collections and in appearing hip and cool, whatever that is. I'm obviously not. So in the news this week, on Friday, we had the death of Prince Philip. Prince Philip was 99 years old and was largely famous because he was married to the Queen. In the UK here at the moment we exist under a monarchy. I am not a royalist in any way, shape or form. I'm very much more of a Republican, I suppose, in that respect. I think I'm using the words correctly there. And I believe the very existence and concept of a monarchy somehow betrays an institutionalised economic apartheid in this country, where there's one family that is selected by the divine will of God and breeding to live in a life of impossible luxury, and their job then becomes to walk around and appear to be interested in people whilst they talk about things they're probably not interested in, opening garden centres and new buildings at universities and things like that. Friday was a very, very strange day for me. Prince Philip died probably around about midday or thereabouts, or at least the announcement was made around about then. And then for the rest of the day, all the television coverage on all the terrestrial channels, that's BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, not Channel 5, and BBC 4, was all moved into a pre-prepared set of hagiographies around how brilliant Prince Philip was and what a tragedy it is that a 99-year-old multi-bazillionaire has died, whose main achievement seems to have been to have married the Queen of England. I felt really, really alienated during this period. Firstly, about 150,000 people have died in the UK during the COVID-19 pandemic. Not one of them has been lionised in the way in which a very old man who died of very natural causes has been lionised. And it felt really kind of insensitive to everyone who's known somebody who's died as a result of COVID-19, and I have. And also somehow this state of, or this position of state-enforced, mandated grieving. I feel absolutely no sadness at all about the death of Prince Philip, and to have the television and the media turned into some kind of patriotic flag-waving jingoism around the death of a member of the state apparatus it's meaningless to me. You know, David Bowie's death meant more to me than Prince Philip's did, in the same way that I was absolutely immune when Margaret Thatcher died. There is, by the way, a fantastic song by Mogwai, bringing it back to the subject, called George Square Thatcher Death Party, which is primarily around having a huge party in George Square in Glasgow when Thatcher died. When Margaret Thatcher did die in 2013, lo and behold, there was a George Square Thatcher death party. And for those of you who are particularly minded, you could actually go to the George Square webcam there, and you could watch it as it occurred. This one is updated. It is now 9:30 in the evening and 45 seconds. And that's a live transmission from the webcam at George Square. And the night of Thatcher's death, there was a Thatcher death party. So with all that to one side, you probably want to know, well, who are Mogwai and where should I start? Loads of people I know love Mogwai, and therefore, if you're watching this, I'm probably telling you things that you already know. If you don't know where to start with Mogwai, and you're going, well, I just want to dip my toes in the water and see if I like them, buy this. This is called Central Belters. It is a 3 CD compilation of the band's self-selected favourite songs between 1995 and 2015 on 3 CDs for about £12. It is both bargainalicious, it's got lots and lots of B-sides on it, and the first 2 discs are pretty much a fantastic greatest hits best of the band. The only thing that I would say about it is that disc 3 is almost exclusively non-album tracks. You get a whole bunch of rarities often making their first appearance on CD in here. You don't get the best titled Mogwai song that there is, but you get pretty much everything else, including a number of soundtrack cuts. Mogwai's discography is very big. It's a little scary. The band have always been very, very prolific. I think they've done something like 16 studio albums, including the soundtrack work. They've done, I think, 3-4 live albums. They've done, I think, 4 compilations of B-sides and rarities and things like that. And they've done a couple of remix albums as well. I'm going to go through that series chronologically right now for you so that you know what you're getting yourself into. I think the first piece of advice I would give you is don't bother trying to track down the vinyl editions of the albums. They're generally really, really expensive, especially for the first few, and they are coming back and being repressed. So be patient, hold on. So here it is. This is the place to start. Central Belters, the best album, the best and most appropriate introduction to them, and its name very clearly describes exactly what it is. Glasgow Central Belters. Everyone's a belter on here. Love this album, and they do great artwork. Now I'm going to go back in time. Let's do a Wayne's World wiggly woo thing, and go back to their first album, which was released in 1997. Here is the sealed version of the double CD reissue. It was called Young Team. It came out, I think, in 1997, possibly 1998. I can't remember. I wasn't a fan of the band at that point. And it's just a fantastic album. It's one of the best debuts ever. And with Mogwai, what I haven't really talked about is, well, what are their songs like? Well, they don't really have songs. They don't really tend to have structures in your conventional sense of lyrics, narrative, choruses or anything like that. The songs are probably 90% instrumental, 90% very atmospheric, quite slow moving. It's like watching clouds form listening to Mogwai. Yes, songs tend to build and to fall and to kind of form themselves in your mind, and when you listen to them you kind of have a feeling or a sense of a feeling or an emotion, as opposed to having the singer tearing his heart out about how much he misses a woman, what gone done him bad, honest governor. There are other bands available for those kind of emotions. Mogwai is the kind of music, when I listen to it, that I explore the inside of my head, and I explore inner space, and obviously actually knackered commuting music. Mogwai, brilliant if you're knackered and you're on a train going home from work or going to work. If you want a band that makes you feel like you're not there, like it's not happening, like you're not really on a train or a bus going into an office, Mogwai are very, very good at transporting you and your soul and your emotions from being on the number 45 bus going into the city centre. And Mogwai Young Team is a great album in that respect. It's also got what I regard to be the singular best Mogwai song. This will be no surprise to anyone that's heard it, which is Mogwai Fear Satan. Now, my introduction to Mogwai was Mogwai Fear Satan. They were supporting the Manic Street Preachers at the Stoke Trentham Gardens in September. I think it was September the 23rd, 1998. And it was the last gig that I went to before I shaved my head for the first time. I'd just come to the end of a relationship, and I wanted to do, and as I tend to do, if I'm in relationships and the relationships come to an end, I change something around my appearance or my personality, because I'm changing. I'm no longer the person that I was in that relationship, and I want to go, well, what is the one thing that and so, for example, my then girlfriend may have hated me shaving my head, so I didn't do it. But I then did it, and to be honest, I've not really looked back in the past 23 years. The hair has instead fallen down onto my chin, which is a relatively new addition to my face. I've had this face with this hair on this chin for probably about 4 years now. Before that, I have not had a beard. Beards are in and they're hip, kids, and I'm trying to look, well, there's nothing as bad as an old man trying to look young. I'm just trying to age as best as I can, really. But in fact, let's just face it, we're all ugly bags of mostly water, and we're mostly souls driving meat vehicles through a weird and unusual landscape that is reality. And that's probably the name of a Mogwai song that just hasn't yet been recorded. But there you are. Young Team, fantastic debut, by the way. Fantastic debut. Love it to bits. Probably on Spotify. Give it a listen if you can. The other thing I will say is the first time that I heard or saw Mogwai was at that support slot supporting Manic Street Preachers. And it was just a great show. They played 40 minutes to a crowd that mostly hated their goddamn guts. 40 minutes of mostly instrumental, very, very loud, very atmospheric, soundtrack type music when people were coming off the heels of Britpop, and the Manic Street Preachers had just scored a #1 album, which, by the way, Mogwai have just done. They've just scored a #1 album with their most recent record. And here I am, the Sherpa Tenzing of Scottish music, as if, to kind of give you a guide through their huge discography. One of the great things about Mogwai as well is that they've never split up. They've never gone on month-long breaks. They've never taken 4 years to make an album. They've always been doing something. They've always been playing live, or they've been releasing records. And I think they've released an album for pretty much every 18 months throughout the whole of their career in some form or other. Anyway, that's me telling you about Young Team there. And the second album that they came out, which came out in 1997, which isn't really an album, is this bad boy. This is called 10 Rapid, and this is a compilation of their early independent 7-inch singles before they got signed, or putting all of their previously vinyl-only limited edition handmade singles into one album. This has recently been issued on vinyl, for I think last year for Record Store Day, maybe for 2019, in a coloured vinyl edition. It's a great record. The only thing about it that I don't like actually is because the band were working very, very quickly, very cheaply, in cheap studios, is it doesn't quite have the precise and timeless sonic polish that all of their other albums have. One of the things about Mogwai and their albums is when you listen to them, you can't immediately listen to Mogwai Fear Satan and go, that's definitely 1997, because that's not how it is at all. It's you listen to it and you go, well, that was made at some point by some people, but you can't narrow it down to a century or even a decade because it seems to exist outside of popular culture. There's most definitely not going to be a Mogwai featuring Jay-Z rap section in any song. Thank God for that. The third record, or the third album, not the best place to start at all. This is Kickin' a Dead Pig. It's a remix album made of remixes from the Young Team album. Some editions, like this one, feature a CD single of remixes of Fear Satan, including a remix by My Bloody Valentine. This is the American version that came with it. As I have said before, I was working on a budget when these records came out. I didn't have a huge amount of money, and so my job was to stretch the money that I had, which wasn't very much, as far as I possibly could to get as much music as I could get into my ears, because 24 hours a day I was living, breathing, eating, dreaming music, and I still do. It's my obsession in the way that, for example, some people are obsessed with their cat. I'm obsessed with music and how it helps me understand and navigate my way through this strange, weird world. Oh, baby, it's a weird world. Wild world, actually. The next release which I've got is this, which is the No Education Equals No Future, Fuck the Curfew EP, which was released on the 29th of June, 1998. This is a promotional CD in a card sleeve with a sticker on it. I've never got round to buying a vinyl edition or a proper retail release version of this, but it's got Christmas steps, rollerball, and helps both ways on it. And one thing you'll notice is that Mogwai are very, very good at song titles. They're brilliant at it. But luckily, that EP was given a later re-release. Here's also the EP that came before that. It's called For Satin. For Satin has Superheroes of BMX, Now You're Taken, and Stereo D on it. Pretty good, but again, product of a rushed band with not a huge amount of time going through it. And a lot of the EP material was later released on a release called EP plus 6. This is the Mogwai EP. I haven't got the plus 6 version because I've got those other EPs there. And this has Stanley Kubrick Christmas song, Burn Girl, Prom Queen, and Rage Man on it. Again, at this point, the band aren't necessarily focusing on hits, singles, choruses, or anything. They're just making great music, playing live, and converting people one heathen at a time to their cause. And it's really difficult to kind of explain to you why you should like Mogwai. Either you do or you don't. Give them a listen. If you don't like them, that's absolutely great. There's plenty of other music in the world, but if you do like them, this hopefully will help in knowing what to buy and where and how to get it. The second proper album is called Come On Die Young. This is a 2015-2014 double CD reissue, which has got 15 extra tracks on it, including the fantastic Hugh Dallas. Actually, I thought it was called Huge Dildos the first time I read that. Great name for a song. It's got a bunch of demos on it. It's got extra tracks. It's got a thing called Carver Sessions, and it's got some live stuff on it, and it's got the Travelling Constance EP, which is really hard to get, by the way. Travelling Constance, I think, was only sold on a tour in 1998. So if you're going to buy Come On Die Young, either get it dirt cheap and get the single CD version, or if you're going to go and buy everything, get this version. This is one of their best albums. So third album, we're going to go forward in time a little bit to 2001. You can't really see this because I've turned the cover around, so I'm going to have to take this out. This is called Rock Action, and Rock Action is a fantastic album. It's very organic, it's very fluid, and at the same point it's starting to lean into technology and keyboards and sequencers and synthesizers and things like that. Early versions of the album have this fantastic transparent sleeve thing in there. I remember in the previous episode I was talking about how Suede hadn't gone for one of these, and yet here is the proof that you can do it, kids. You could have done that. But Rock Action is named after the nickname for the drummer from the Stooges, who's called Rock Action, although his real name is Scott Ashton, and he's a fantastic drummer. I saw him play live once when I saw the Stooges play Raw Power at the Hammersmith Odeon in 2010, which was just beautiful. The guitars sounded like chainsaws, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's what all guitars should sound like, is they should sound like chainsaws that have been pitched perfectly with effects pedals. Rock Action is a really good record. Really recommend it. It's got a secret point on it, and yeah, two rights make one wrong. All great tracks on this. Not the best Mogwai album, but there's a heck of a lot of competition for that particular place. Next thing, 2001 was an EP called My Father, My King, which the band still play live. It's 20 minutes long. It's huge. It's epic. It's just enormous. It's the kind of thing that you just put on and you just listen to and you just get lost in the sound. And when I saw Mogwai at the Raw Festival Hall in 2018 for Robert Smith's Meltdown series, they encored with My Father, My King, and it's just an amazing song. Takes me places, and it's just wonderful. But My Father, My King, by the way, is the last track on Central Belters, so you don't need to buy this EP if you've got this one. Now, following on from that, there came a limited edition tour EP, which is the 5-track tour single that was sold at the merch desk in 2001. I can't remember what's on this, by the way. It's hard to get, probably quite expensive. It's not fantastically essential. If you're a completist, pick it up. Otherwise, pretty much every track off it is on YouTube anyway. So we're moving into 2003, and 2003 comes this album, which is Happy Songs for Happy People. I love this album. I really, really do. It's got some great songs on it. Hang on a second, I'm just going to go and stand up whilst I talk about this. It's also got some fantastic artwork, and I've suddenly remembered I've got a DVD over here, which I should have got out earlier before I was showing you. But hey kids, this is live and happening right in front of your very eyes. So, Happy Songs for Happy People. At this point, the band have settled into a pretty great way of working, actually, largely almost self-contained, relatively successful, not selling out huge places at all, but able to make a decent living out of it and operate at a relatively low altitude with almost complete autonomy over what they want to do. If you're an artist, especially a musician or someone like that, what you want to do is you want to kind of untether yourself from the facts and the realities of commercial marketplace existence and be able to follow whatever it is that you feel is your right and appropriate thing to do. And by the time that this album came out, this was exactly where the band were, with Happy Songs for Happy People, or depending on how you want to look at it, Happy Songs or Happy People, which is a very distinctive and deliberate design choice. It's got Stop Coming to My House on it, Moses I Amped, Hunted by a Freak. Oh, Hunted by a Freak, what a brilliant track. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful album. You can't really go wrong starting anywhere, I think, with Mogwai. In fact, this will probably be just another 20 minutes of me telling you how everything they do is absolutely fantastic. But yes, it's a really good Mogwai album. But we're not yet anywhere near what I regard to be the best stuff. 2003 also saw the release of Government Commissions, which is a live album recorded at sessions for the BBC. I don't like this because it is very incomplete. There are at least three CDs worth of material which could have been on this as a full and comprehensive BBC Sessions release, and I'd really, really hope that a reissue of this occurs with the full sessions on as opposed to a greatest hit. So it's kind of like a default greatest hit stroke Pill Sessions album. If you want to get a feel for what live Mogwai are like, this is exactly the place to go. It's not the place to start, but it's one of the places to go. What you see is with these songs, especially when they're played live, they're never played quite the same twice. Every version of every song, every performance of every song is slightly different, and the band kind of do improvise within the structures of the songs, and they're able to play at any given point almost any song in their repertoire, almost any song that they've recorded. Sometimes they'll play a song for the first time in 10 years, and then they won't play it again for another 10 years, and the reason they'll do that is because it was Cologne on a Thursday, which is the kind of setlist variation that makes geeks like me tremble in anticipation, because you genuinely never know what's going to happen next. For example, the first song that I saw them play live, Mogwai Fierce Hayden, is also the last song I've seen them play live, because they now end some of their shows with it, and I think they played it as the last song at the Glasgow Bella Houston Park show in August 2019, which from memory was very, very muddy, but was a fantastic day. And there is nothing about seeing Mogwai live that I cannot recommend. But no, Government Commissions, not the best album at all. And then we go into 2006. 2006 was a really, really busy year for the band. Oh, I remember the thing that I got up, which I should have told you. Here is a DVD for Happy Songs for Happy People. Now you might think, well, there's no DVD for Happy Songs for Happy People. There's a thing called an EPK, an electronic press kit, which is effectively a 20-minute Mogwai documentary during the recording of the album. I should have remembered that a few minutes ago, but I didn't. I think you picked this up on Discogs for about £5 now. And so 2006 was a really, really busy year if you were a fan of Mogwai. Effectively, you got 3 albums that year, and you've got The Fountain, Mr. Beast, and Zidane. And I'm going to go through these in a chronological order. The first one is The Fountain, the soundtrack to The Fountain, which is a very difficult, not difficult actually, it's a weird, mind-blowing Darren Aronofsky film, kind of like a combination between 2001 and Terrence Malick's Tree of Life. Such a strange movie, and somehow brilliant. Every time I watch it, I'm sucked into an alternate universe where someone is trying to conquer the very concept of mortality. And there's like a subplot about time travel and about immortality, and there's this incredible soundtrack which is written by Clint Mansell, formerly of Pop Loot itself, and performed by the Kronos Quartet and Mogwai. So it's a kind of like a soundtrack album with Mogwai and a string quartet performing variations upon a couple of key themes. I love this album. This album, like the film, it takes me to a place that very little other music can take me to. It's not quite even spreadsheet music. It's music for sitting down and listening to and exploring all of the bylaws and the little A roads inside your brain and your emotions. Fantastic album. I love this to bits. If you want to buy a vinyl copy, it's probably about £200, so I suggest you don't start there. But it's very definitely worth investigating. The next release was their more conventional, straightforward rock album, Mr. Beast. Came in a number of editions. This is the version that comes with a documentary DVD, which is, I think, about half an hour, filmed at the band studio, which is called Castle of Doom in Scotland. And it's just a great album, actually. Some of the songs they don't play live anymore, but it's got Glasgow Mega Snake and We're No Here and Friend of the Night, which I really like those songs. It's really difficult to explain to you why I like a song and why I don't, but I think it's a good, strong album that sometimes gets overlooked in the Mogwai world. Well, I love it. This is the DVD edition. The film that comes on the DVD is practically, to all intents and purposes, the EPK, which otherwise will have been on Happy Songs for Happy People and wouldn't have been released. And then the next release, and this is one I love, is the second soundtrack that they worked on, which is Zidane. Really strange. I don't like the film. I think the film is a bag of shit, but I love the album because the film is a multi-camera shot of one game that the footballer's playing, and it's then soundtracked by Mogwai alongside him talking about things in his life, and it just doesn't work for me. I've watched it. Now, football leaves me cold. It really, really does. There is nothing about sport ball that I can get into at all. I totally get that makes me really, really weird and probably quite rare, but I don't see any of the appeal of football at all, because to me it's a confrontational sport. There's got to be a winner and a loser. I prefer gigs because everybody's all pulling for the same team, and we all know that there's going to be a couple of big goals right at the end. If you go and see a band live, firstly, you probably like the band, so you probably know what you're going to get. Secondly, you also know the band are probably going to play the songs that you really, really like, especially towards the end of the show. So there's a sense of the winning goal is scored and everybody's on the same team. Whereas if a winning goal is scored in football, there's that sense of heartbreak and catastrophe and that you've got cheated or whatever. And it, it comes with higher highs and lower lows. Whereas live music for me is all about the highs all the time. Is the bit where you're sitting in a room or standing in a room with the people that made music that changed your life, and normally with people that you love and admire and respect and your friends, and you've probably got a couple of drinks and you're like, this is my church, this is where I get to commune with something that's higher than bills and work, and that's what seeing live shows is like, and that's what seeing Mogwai is like for me. It's not what going to a football match is for me. Zidane, fantastic when you listen to the album. It's got a couple of secret tracks on it as well. I think it's got a track called after Black Spider 2, there's another secret song which is on there, which is a leftover from one of the other albums, but it's just a great album. I really, really love the album to Zidane. I don't love the game. Sorry guys, no one's perfect. Next album, 2008, The Hawk is Howling, and this comes with a DVD. The DVD is called Adelia, I Want to Live, and it is a film made by a guy called Vincent Moon, I think. I do not rate Vincent Moon as an editor or as a filmmaker in the slightest. He has one trick, which is you shoot everything on Super 8 in black and white, and then you cut it together in a way that doesn't make any sense, like somehow someone gave David Lynch all the coffee in the world. And his films just leave me absolutely cold when I watch them. But the album, fantastic. It's got some of my favourite Mogwai songs on it. So let's open up and see what's on it. It's got I'm Jim Morrison, I'm Dead, Batcat, The Sun Smells Too Loud, I Love You, I'm Going to Blow Up Your Skull. I mean, those are fantastic song titles, and they're fantastic songs. And if I remember correctly, I think the B-side of Batcat has a song called something like Stupid Prick Gets Chased by the Police and Loses his slut girlfriend, which is one of the best names for a song. The song itself, not so amazing, but the title, fantastic. But all is not lost, because 2009 saw the first live release from the band on the Hawk is Howling tour. They'd originally recorded a show in Japan in 2006 on the Mr. Beast tour, but they didn't record the guitars correctly, so they came back and they shot another 3 nights at I think Brooklyn's, whatever, I can't even remember what the name of the venue is now. They shot 3 nights in Brooklyn for this, which is called Special Moves Stroke Burning. Burning is a live album which is 11 tracks. If you get the vinyl edition, it's up to 17. And the DVD has 8 tracks on it, most of which aren't on the CD. So between them, you get about 16, 17 tracks between the CD and the DVD. Early versions of it on CD and DVD came with the download for all the extra tracks, and the 3LP box set version, which no doubt retails now for about £100, had all of the audio across the DVD and the CD and the downloads all on vinyl. Naturally, I probably should have bought that, but I didn't. I love this. This is one of the best live albums. It's just, they're great live, and this really captures exactly what it's like to be in a room watching Mogwai. Now, the next thing that came out, 2011, saw Hardcore Will Never Die, But You Will. Just what an amazing album this is. I'm going to show off here, Record Collector Scum. This is the box set vinyl edition of Hardcore Will Never Die. We're going to go in, kids. Let's see what it is. It's an unboxing video. This is difficult to get, been deleted a long time now, probably expensive. If you get a chance to get it and it's under about 50 quid and you like Mogwai, really great package, lovely. So we've got a box, hang on, let's lift the top off there. We've got a vinyl edition of Hardcore Will Never Die, which is very, very well pressed, by the way. And I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just the quality control is there. Also on Hardcore on the box set, you've got a stencil, and what a fantastic design this stencil is. Ooh, scary. Put my eyes through there. There you are. Maybe I should go there back and say, well, this will probably be the thing that'll be the little image that appears on the front of the video on YouTube advertising it. Is there you go. That's me. And the Mogwai logo and my eyes poking through it there. But no, stencil, I don't know when you'd ever want to stencil the Mogwai logo onto anything, but if you ever feel the need, there's the stencil to use. There's also a 12-inch EP of home demos, which features Mexican Grand Prix, George Square Thatcher Death Party, what a title, San Pedro, How to Be a Werewolf, and Your Lionel Richie. So that is the box set. Now, this version I bought second hand for not the prices that you would normally expect to pay for it, because I didn't get the art cards with it, but I don't listen to the art cards, so I'm okay with that catastrophic loss and having an incomplete box set. Someone said to me, well, you can have the box set but without the art cards for 30 quid less. That's exactly where I was, and I was like, you know what, yes, I'm going to do that, because the art cards aren't worth 30 quid. I wouldn't spend 30 quid on Mogwai art cards. And that is, you know, where we are. Following on from that, by the way, the CD version of Hardcore Will Never Die here contains a 20-minute bonus disc, which features a long epic track called Music for a Forgotten Future, which is for, I think, a film of the same name called Monument for a Forgotten Future, which is really, really good. But and that, you know, the album feels somewhat incomplete without listening to that. It also feels incomplete without listening to the Earth Division EP. This is a promotional CD of it. The reason I have a promotional CD and not a regular CD is that the regular CD version was all burnt down in a fire of the warehouse in Tottenham in the Tottenham riots of 2011. So the CD edition of Earth Division came out much later than the vinyl edition, and I saw a CDR of it for like £4, and I thought, I don't even know if they're ever going to release a CD of this, so I bought it. Anyway, Earth Division is a great EP. It's got a track called Get to France on it. It's got one called Drunk and Crazy. It's got Hound of Winter and Does This Always Happen. Just listen to it. If you don't like it, I don't even know why you're 35 minutes into a video of me talking about Mogwai. And they followed it up with this remix album called A Wretched Virile Law, which is not that great. So the next thing which happens, this is gorgeous. This is Rave Tapes from 2013. As far as I'm concerned, this is where me and Mogwai, we fell in love with around about this period, and I absolutely love this album. It's fantastic. This is the box set, unsurprisingly. Fantastic artwork by DLT, and DLT's also done Twilight Sad's artwork. He's just got a great visual style, very underrated. Let's have a look inside the 12-inch box set for Rave Tapes. So we have in here, by the way, we have an LP, we have a 7-inch, we have the CD, and we have a pink cassette. Lots of copies of these didn't sell, so you can pick it up for about 20 quid not long after it came out, which is where I got it. I love Rave Tapes. It's got Re-Murdered on it, which is a brilliant track, and it's got one called Simon Ferocious, and Simon Ferocious is the name that Freddie Mercury called Sid Vicious when they met during recording sessions. Here is a 7-inch, tell everybody that I love them, with some kind of incredible etching on there. I don't know if you can see the detail that's in there. That is absolutely fantastic. Pressed on thick, lovely, slightly sexy vinyl. And then Rave Tapes itself. Here's the LP. I have no recollection around whether it's a coloured vinyl LP or not. Let's have a look inside. No, if black is a colour, it's a black coloured vinyl LP. Look at that artwork. Beautiful. There's also a Demos 12-inch. Well, actually, no, this isn't a Demos 12-inch. This is some extra tracks, which has Bad Magician 3 and Die I Dislike on there. And there's also some art prints, which are absolutely gorgeous. And finally, a hardback book, which has pictures of band members during the recording of the album. Rave Tapes is an incredible album, and we're not even anywhere near the best stuff yet, okay? Because the follow-up to Rave Tapes was Music Industry 3, Fitness Industry 1, and there's a promotional CD of it. They also did around about the same time, 2013, they did the soundtrack to a French television series, The Returned, Les Revenants. I love this album. Their soundtrack stuff is almost like Mogwai Unchained. And free from the commercial prospects of having to write conventional songs and just do long, moody, atmospheric pieces. This is a great album. Give it a listen. Please give it a listen, because I love it to bits. And 2015 also saw the compilation Central Belters. So that takes us up to the last 5 years of the band. This is Atomic, the soundtrack to a fantastic documentary about atomic energy called Living in the Age of Dread and Promise. And Atomic is my favourite Mogwai album. Many of you will probably be surprised to hear that. It is fantastic, it's beautiful, it's meditative, blows my mind listening to it. It takes me to a very, very specific and very unusual place. And this is the Indies only orange vinyl edition of it. But it's just an incredible album, so underrated. And it just, I listen to it and it just helps me just access a part of my soul which otherwise it doesn't seem I can really get to. Atomic is a brilliant Mogwai album. It's very underrated. I adore it. It's probably one of my favourite albums actually of all time, Atomic. There are no words I can use to describe how much I love it. And so the next thing that happened, 2017, was the release of Lost in France, which is a documentary film um, about Mogwai, Franz Ferdinand, Arab Strap, and the Delegados, coming back to when they went to France and going back 10 years later to perform some shows there. It's pretty good, but it's not that good. It's not amazing. And 2016, by the way, also saw, and this is something which, if you love Mogwai, I strongly recommend you try, is this band here, Minor Victories, which is Stuart from Mogwai, Justin from Editors, Rachel Goswell of Slow Dive, guest vocals by James from the Twilight Sad on a song or two, and some other musicians as well. And it's a wonderful album. Also, it's got some of the best band t-shirts ever, because they've got one with building sized laser cats burning down town centres as if they were like furry, fluffy, floofy Godzillas. There's a second version of the album, Orchestral Variations, which is largely instrumental. Also, there's a 4-song EP version of the Orchestral Variations that was available at Rough Trade Records that features an exclusive vocal version of folk art on here. I love Minor Victories. I strongly recommend, if you like Mogwai, give them a listen. And so we're coming into the end now, and I'm rushing slightly because I've got about 5 minutes, and I think I've got 4 albums to go through. 2017 saw the release of Every Country's Son, which is just a brilliant record. I had the incredible privilege to see the band play at Primavera in Barcelona in 2017, where they premiered Every Country's Son in full months before it was released. And I always remember standing in a quite dusty field at about 8 o'clock at night, looking at Mogwai performing this suite of incredible songs before my eyes for the very first time, alongside, staring over during the end of it, and just looking over, and you're seeing, there's docks, there's ships, there's industrial part of town, there's cranes that are moving, the sun's setting, and they're playing this soundtrack, and it was just a wonderful experience. I am a lucky bastard. I know it, and it's better that I know it and recognise that than just pretend that I'm not. I am. Every Country's Son, brilliant album, and it got a number of formats. The box set has a CD in it here. It doesn't have a 7-inch single of Party in the Dark. I bought this separately, by the way, backed with a track called Eternal Panther. And here is the rest of the box set. So we've got a demos 12-inch with 6 tracks on it, including Battered at a Scramble, which is possibly one of the best song titles of all time. Although it's also Don't Believe the Five, actually, is a fantastic song title. And here is Every Country's Son on double vinyl, which is available in a white vinyl version in the box set. I love this album. It's Mogwai, one of the very few bands I think that really are just getting better and better with time. There are some bands that go a bit crap and you kind of love them because they remind you of somebody or something, and you kind of go, yeah, but they're not as good as they used to be. Well, Mogwai are just one of those bands that I think have grown old beautifully and aged wonderfully, like a fine wine, as opposed to possibly looking at members of Bros and wondering how the hell that happened to them, when it looked like they've lived every one of their years. I absolutely love this album. I could not recommend it more highly to anybody. So there's 4 albums left, and I've got about 4 minutes, so let's go with it very quickly. Following on from that, 2017 saw the release of Kin, which is a soundtrack to an unamazing science fiction movie. The soundtrack is pretty good. There's a limited edition red vinyl version which you could get from indie shops, which sometimes turns up cheap. Well worth getting. It doesn't exactly look like a Mogwai album, but it's really good. And then following on from that, we had 2, at the moment, download only albums, okay? So the first one is the soundtrack to 000, which I haven't yet seen. This is getting a vinyl release for Record Store Day. Get your hands off. I'm getting a copy. But this is a download only release of a soundtrack, and I think Mogwai soundtracks are sometimes some of their best stuff, because it's not got an eye on what would fit well on an album. It's got an eye on what will sound fantastic. And then there's the 2018 live album, which I'm enthused about in a previous episode as one of the best live albums of all time. Mogwai, one of the best live bands of all time, and I stand by that assessment. The last one, the one you will probably have heard of, even if you've heard of nothing else, is this year's As the Love Continues, which was made #1 in the charts. I can't believe Mogwai #1 in the charts, and the reason I can't believe that is not because I don't think they deserve it, but because I'm not used to bands I like getting to #1 in the charts. But I want all the bands I love to get into the charts so they can continue to make records rather than have to split up and get day jobs. This is the Monorail in Glasgow Records orange vinyl exclusive version with a signed postcard. I love this album. Again, if you're going to go for a studio album and not start with central belters, this is as good a place to start as any. It's also far more accessible. There are a number of releases of it. I think there's something like 8 different colours of vinyl. But if you can get a chance to get it, get the box set, which has got a demo CD that sits inside it. Now, it feels like I have been talking at you madly, like Donald Sutherland in JFK, where you have 10 minutes of having someone yell at you various facts, and then all of a sudden at the end of it you go, well, what just happened? And, you know, I understand that. So I'm going to wrap up here and just say, Mogwai are fucking brilliant. I absolutely love them. Please buy their albums. And if you don't know where to start, go with Central Belters. It is full of belters, and that is that. I'm going to stop now. Thank you for putting up with me talking at a very, very high speed to you, and I will see you all again some other time. And relax. See you later, lovely people.